Hawaii's statewide seasonally adjusted unemployment rate is below 3%. In a tight job market, local companies compete against each other and nationally for the most qualified employees. While the gap widens between the high cost of living and Hawaii's average salary scale, how can Hawaii workers take advantage of this situation? And how can local companies get creative with compensation offerings? This live broadcast and live stream of Insights on PBS Hawaii start now.
Aloha and welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Yenji Denise. In April of this year, the Hawaii State Department of Labor and Industrial Relations reported that Hawaii's unemployment rate was at 2.7%. This is the lowest it has been in 10 years and is reported to still be going down. While this may give the impression of a booming economy, what does that number really mean, especially when the gap continues to widen between the high cost of living here in Hawaii and the average salary range? For employers who can't pay competitive salaries because of their own cost, it can be difficult to attract talent locally and even from out of state. For job seekers, it could mean leaving Hawaii for a less expensive place to live. Our guests tonight include the chief executive of a major insurance company, business owners, one of whom operates a staffing agency, and an employee who is also a mother of two. We look forward to your participation in our show tonight. You can email, call, or tweet us your questions, and you'll find a live stream of this program at pbshawaii.org and on the PBS Hawaii Facebook page. Now to our guest. Judy Bishop is the owner of Bishop & Company, a staffing agency that works with individuals looking for work as well as employers looking for employees. She founded the company in 1986. Attila Sares is the president of SOS Tech Solutions, an IT firm with a focus on cybersecurity and telecommunications for Oahu businesses. Most of his company's staff are millennials in their 20s and 30s. Jeffrey Shonka is the president and CEO of First Insurance Company of Hawaii, a position he's held since 2014. First Insurance has been active in finding innovative ways to recruit and retain employees. And Darlene Kaku is the marketing director of UFC Gyms of Hawaii. She spent her career in operations and marketing and has been in management for the last 10 years. She's also a mother of two daughters. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I want to start with you because you've seen the ebb and flow of that number, 2.7%. That is incredibly low. What does that mean for the people who are coming to you wanting workers?
Well, it's very challenging, to say the least. And if I might just make a small correction,
Please.
I didn't found the company in '86. The company was founded then, and it operated for a long time, and I actually bought out the owner and changed the name.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway. So the problem is that there is such demand, and there simply aren't enough people. Everyone who is a halfway qualified person has a job or has multiple job offers. So there just simply aren't enough people. So it starts to become a situation where if a company that comes to me wants a certain kind of talent, I have to go look for that talent at another company.
Now, when you hear that, it sounds like as a job seeker, you could get whatever you want. Yet we still see people struggling, working 2 or 3 jobs to afford living here in Hawaii. So tell us about that disconnect. If it is so great to be someone who's, in such high demand, why aren't the salaries there?
Well, there's a skill mismatch. So the people who are looking often don't have the skills for the jobs that are open.
That is a tough situation. Jeffrey, I want to bring you in on this. You run a company with over 300 employees. How difficult do you find it to retain and attract new ones?
Well, it's hard to find people with the right skill set. So even though you have job openings at my company, other companies, finding the right skill set is very, very difficult. And part of the problem with over the years has been not enough training. All kinds of folks are available for training and want to be trained to do various jobs, but we're not doing it. More companies need to train their incoming folks and their existing folks to take on the next job.
I know at First Insurance you've had a number of ways that you're keeping people around. What are some of the incentives that you have put in place to try to keep workers in your company? Like
a lot of companies, we have flex time. You can work from home. We try to accommodate them with, child situation, going to school and so forth. We also have expanded the number of job positions by underwriter and claims. So younger folks who want to see progression can see progression year after year after year, as opposed to waiting maybe 3 years for a promotion. So more and more, I think the younger generation wants to see a real progress over the course of time, or they feel left behind.
Interesting. Well, Attila, I know you started your company in 2007. So, we have the Great Recession in 2008. So we see a labor market that has changed dramatically. I know you're running a much smaller company in size than Jeffrey, but tell us about how you've seen the labor market change as an employer.
Well, it does change. And unfortunately, it's very easy to get left behind in what we do. So our industry is in knowledge work. So there's very few tangible goods that we deal with. Probably the most amount of paper you're going to see is something that we scan before we shred. It all goes very quickly. So the people who come in and who succeed at our company, they're ones who can really take something, learn quickly, and adapt to the new situation, because next year is going to be a new challenge. Cybersecurity is an ongoing, ever-evolving threat. There's always new products, new information. You can never know it all. And so to be successful in our industry, you really have to be flexible. And that's sometimes a little bit challenging to find. Some of the more experienced technicians that we do interview, they've done a lot of work in a very legacy framework, so things that have been fixed and they haven't picked up new skills along the way. They haven't been taught to thought. And I believe that education is really to help you think on your feet. And we really need to foster that and encourage that in the up and coming, like you said, millennials, because that's what's going to lead to their success coming up. It's going to be the ability to learn and adapt. It's not going to be learning old material.
So I know your firm has less than 10 employees. Have you had a hard time attracting new folks?
Of course.
And where are you finding the people to work for you?
Well, the best, I mean, it's just my opinion, but I think the best people you're going to find are the ones that are already enthusiastic and interested about this topic, and they seek you out. And they may already know some of your staff. And so it's a great way for the staff to reach out to their own networks and find ways to bring them in, because those are the people that are going to last, because you're bringing in a group of friends, you're bringing in a family, and everyone's going to work together a little bit better if you try that. Now, of course, we're just a small company, but I feel that our company, which is obviously less than 10 employees, represents a good portion of Hawaii businesses that are out there. There's lots of companies out there that may have hundreds of employees as standby employees, but they don't have like the core staff of the fixed staff of maybe 10 to 15 employees, and that is what is driving the construction industries, is driving professional services. These are the growth sectors in our economy here, and we really need to foster and support them.
It's interesting that you bring up that kind of size, because I know at UFC, for instance, you have a core number of full-time employees, but then you have a lot of people who are working the front desk or doing other things that are working part-time. Before we started the show, you were telling me about a job fair that you recently attended at the Blaisdell. Tell us, as an employer, in this kind of labor market, what is it like to be on that side of the desk?
Well, it's interesting. We meet a lot of different people at the job fairs, and some people who are coming in, they have no work experience at all, and they're not even sure what type of career they're looking for. They're still in college or just getting out of college, and they're not sure of the long-term, picture. And so what I like to do during the job fairs is just try to get to know their personalities, and sometimes you find that they may be better in a different type of field. They're coming in for front desk, but based on their personality and their motivation and drive, just by talking to them, I find, you may be good as sales, or have you ever thought about being in personal training? And so a lot of times, if the employee or the applicant themselves doesn't even know what their long-term goal is, and they just want a chance, they just want something to get their foot in the door, then what we try to do is to kind of, get to know them a little better and see if we can draw that passion out of them. And after hiring them too, a lot of times you'll find that they want to learn more, and so we'll end up cross-training them and helping them to get a little more well-rounded within the company, so that become a bigger asset as well.
I mean, a lot of the jobs that you're describing are somewhat entry levels, and that's what we hear is the hardest to retain. How are you able to keep those folks on the job?
Lots of high fives and hugs. A lot of employees, nowadays, it's not about the salary sometimes. For them personally, it may be about just feeling appreciated, empowerment. And so what, I'm a fan of is definitely making them feel empowered. One example would be, I have one employee who's a trainer, and he's just really good in PowerPoint and Photoshop. And so when I needed something and I needed it in a rush, rather than doing it myself, it's, hey, can you help me out with this? And so they feel great because they're contributing to the bigger picture. They helped me create, a beautiful sign, and we were able to use it at the job fair. We've had private events, and I have an employee who, he's a porter, janitorial, but he loves making playlists and, kind of being like his own little DJ, and so he said, hey, can I play some of this new playlist that I have? And so it really fired up our event, so they felt like they were part of the bigger picture of the event and contributed more than just what their job was here at, at the gym. And so retaining them, definitely making them feel empowered, cross-training them, giving them more value within the company, and also giving them a lot of high fives and hugs, and sometimes, I go to Starbucks and I'll get some kind of a drink, and I know that so-and-so is having a bad day or just maybe working long hours and is really tired. Bring them back something and they just feel really good about it, So a lot of it is getting to know your employee, what they like, and, taking care of them in their own way, what makes them feel good individually. Each person has their own way.
How important is that when someone's running a company, especially in this tight labor market, making an employee feel important and recognized?
It's huge. And some of the classics for retaining employees are still the same. They haven't changed. And everyone's motivated by something different. And you have to really consider the individual. And there's been a lot of talk recently about how there's like about 4 generations in the workplace right now. And it's, oh, that's such a challenge because you have to kind of, adapt to all these 4 generations. But you always have to adapt to each individual, because what motivates me doesn't motivate her or him, right? So you have to know your employees, and you have to understand what's going to make them happy. And it's one thing to motivate them, it's another thing to make them happy, And I think that, we have to, as employers, pay much more attention to that than we used to have to do. When the employer was saying, I'm going to screen out all these people and maybe take one. It's not like that anymore. It's a complete reversal. The employee is screening you out as the employer. And so you have to think about that from a retention perspective too, that headhunters and recruiters are probably poaching your employees right now.
Well, one of the ways you could poach, obviously, is money. We have the audience weighing in already, and of course, we do encourage you to be part of this discussion. Someone writing in tonight wants to know, are the salaries offered fair and competitive given Hawaii's high cost of living? Jeffrey, I wonder if you could answer that. Running a big business as you do, obviously you have a lot of costs. So how do you balance that, given that people want to get paid more in Hawaii and our salaries relative to what we have to pay for housing and whatnot really don't match up?
Yeah, I'll start though by confirming what others have said. When it comes to retention, every employee survey we've ever conducted has the #1 reason that they stay is relationships with other employees. It isn't the compensation, it's being appreciated, knowing the people around you, and have an ohana kind of environment. So that really is what's really important to keep people there. But in terms of compensation, every company I know of any size does surveys. And the surveys will indicate what the range of salaries and comp is for a particular position. So like them, we follow those surveys. And we will make sure that our offers of compensation are within those survey numbers. Now, surveys are not always accurate. You have areas of IT, for example, that will spike one way or the other. You have to keep into account those kinds of things. But most HR departments will try to target some either upper 75% percentile range or something for salaries, and that's how they do it, even though it's different than the mainland.
And sometimes the survey results are a little slow if you have a rapidly growing economy, right? So they're like from 2015 or something, and you're using them now, and there's been a spike. So I think that HR departments, they know that. So they feel that in their recruiting.
Also in Hawaii, you've got some positions where there are so few data points. There's just not enough information to know what that salary should be. So IT often has those kinds of situations, but also in insurance, there's not a lot of us.
Right.
So senior underwriters and people who are at senior levels of our company, there's not really good data to know what you should pay them. So it's really mainland salaries at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you have a mainland cost of living, that mainland salary maybe doesn't match up.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no way to fully explain the difference in compensation levels between Hawaii and the mainland. much of my career I was on the mainland, but I was in a very high cost of living area in Los Angeles. So my transition to Hawaii was much less of a sticker shock situation than other people experience.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it really comes down to what the market will bear in this state. And this state, evidently, for a variety of reasons, pays less.
Attila, I wonder, how do you retain employees with is it salary, is it lifestyle, is it letting people work from home? How are you navigating all of that as a small business owner?
Well, I believe that we have a really small tribe, and that small tribe needs to have a really big mission. So our mission is to help keep Hawaii businesses growing. And every day when the guys come in, they're really excited because they feel like they're doing something really important. And they get in, they get to do it, they get to help these businesses, they get to find these predators that are trying to destroy their companies, they get to help them, and it makes them feel so good. So I believe having that sort of purpose really kind of helps. And I also feel that people leave companies, or employees leave companies, because of a manager. It's not necessarily that they don't like the mission of the company, they don't like something, it's the manager. So I try to spend as much face time individually with employees to remind them of what we're doing here today. This is our mission, this is what we're trying to do, this is why it's important. And I always start with an objective and then give a lot of freedom for them to figure out a way to do it. Because as the leader, I think it's well understood that as a leader, the leaders don't always have all the answers. And why not leverage this genius staff that we have and say, like, look, this is the project, this is the outcome we're trying to get to. You guys figure it out. I'll see you in a few hours. And that works out really well. It gives them a real sense of empowerment. And they know our clearly defined mission. They see what we're trying to accomplish. And it leads to a real positive environment that's attractive to talent that also wants to spend their days doing something meaningful and becoming something bigger than themselves.
Darlene, it's interesting because I think you can kind of answer this question from both sides, in that you are someone in management, but you also are an employee and you're a mom of two. So you're, the classic working person in Hawaii who is trying to pay bills, raise a family. Do you feel like the salaries, and not necessarily just in, at UFC, but in general, do you feel like the salaries in Hawaii are high enough to keep you here?
In my field and with what I'm getting, comparing it to others, for me, I value more what the companies offer me and flexibility and everything else around versus the salary itself. The salary does definitely take care of the bills, but for me personally, as an employee, I'm looking for longevity in the company. I'm looking for culture within the company. Am I happy going to work every day? Just like Attila was saying, you want to be happy. You want your employees to feel like they're a part of the bigger picture and that they're making a difference. And so for me, definitely the salary is taking care of my family. But I'm looking at it as, even if I could have gotten more at a different company, will I have that same great culture? Will I have the flexibility to take care of my two kids? I have a 4-year-old daughter and I have a 6-year-old son. And I'm able right now to pick them up from school, do some homework, and still get my work done and commute between 3 locations, and do events and things like that. But when I need to take, a couple of hours off to do mommy duties, of some sort, I'm able to, and those things are definitely more priceless and valuable to me than the true dollar amount itself.
Judy, I wonder, tomorrow morning when people go back to work, they're going to say, hey, it's 2.7%, I need a raise. Is that a conversation that you think that employees can have at this point?
Well, I think, as I alluded to earlier, that good people are getting calls from recruiters, right? And it may not be coming from a professional recruiter or recruiting agency, but it may be coming from your competitor, right? And so they're getting those calls, they're thinking, I just got a call offering me 25% more than I'm making now. I think I'm going to approach my boss because I actually like it here, but I'm underpaid. So I think that those conversations are going to happen. They're inevitably going to happen. And I think if someone believes they're valuable, they believe they've given a lot at work and they have made a major contribution and they're feeling like they're underpaid, I think they should have a conversation. Because we get people that come to us and apply and say, please find me another job. And I say, why do you want to leave? Well, I feel I'm underpaid. And I say, have you had a conversation with your boss? No. Well, why wouldn't you? Are you unhappy for another reason? No. Well, why wouldn't you have that conversation? Well, I believe that they should have given it to me. But that's not how it works. You know, you should say something. Give them a chance.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Exactly.
As the saying goes. So, Jeffrey, I don't want to necessarily encourage all 300 plus employees to call you in the morning. But as somebody on the other side of that equation, you know, given the tight labor market, is that a conversation that you are having right now in your company?
Yes, and at the risk of having 100 emails tomorrow morning about a salary raise. No, I mean, we don't always know what the market is for a particular position. I mean, the surveys that I mentioned before, they're just not that accurate. So if someone is getting an offer, and most of them are unsolicited these days, at some number that is significantly in excess of what we're paying, I want to know about that.
Exactly.
It isn't just that one position at risk of losing, but all the rest of them that are around that position or similar positions. So I want them to tell me. I've had conversations like that about every week for the last year or two with someone who says, you know, I like First Insurance, I like the people I work with, like what we do for a living. I don't want to go anywhere, but I can't ignore the fact that this guy over here is offering me this much more. So is my salary in alignment with the market? And we do alter our survey or our ranges because of those conversations.
Do you also have people from the mainland who want to come here, and are you attracting, you know, outside help as well, given that it is 2.7%? How could you not, really?
Yeah, I mean, as someone who made that transition successfully, at least for the 15 years I've been here, I'd also indicate that the mainland hires is a higher risk. So they tend to go back more often than, obviously, the people who live here already. If they have a connection to Hawaii or they live here already, those are our first two choices. The fact is, though, is that the positions that we have available just don't have that skill set here, so we have to go to the mainland. On the mainland, they like the idea of living in Hawaii almost unanimously.
And then they get here and they buy milk and they realize that things cost, right?
We certainly encourage them to do their research before coming, and we'll bring them out anyway to look at the island. But yeah, sticker shock's a big issue. Cost of living is certainly a huge issue. Schools, there's the perception that they're not as good as they should be. So all these things are difficult to overcome. And then you've got people from low cost of living areas. The Midwest, for example, it's almost impossible to recruit from the Midwest. It has to come from New York or LA or San Francisco or someplace where the sticker shock isn't quite so, dramatic.
I want to go to a map right now that we have with millennial salaries, and this next sort of teeing up the stage for Attila here. We've got a widescreen right here, and this is sort of looking at millennial salaries on average across the country. The next one goes straight to Hawaii. We are, higher end, $25,900 a year. If you compare that to, say, New Mexico, they're $19,000. That's a big difference. Let's look at the West Coast now. And there you can see California. And of course, this is statewide, so someone in Los Angeles obviously making something different than someone in Bakersfield, let's say. We go next to the East Coast. And there you can see there's a pretty wide range. Apparently, District of Columbia is a great place to be at $43,000 on average, all those political jobs. Maybe those are the lobbyists, probably not the government. And then let's go to the middle of the country. And you can see there, it's sort of a similar range, though. In Hawaii, we were looking at $25,000. Missouri, they're at $20,000. My guess is that $20,000 in Missouri is going to buy you a very different lifestyle than that $25,000 here in Hawaii. So, Attila, I actually want to go over to you. Most of the people who are working for you are millennials. How are you setting your salaries, and how are you keeping those folks from leaving?
Well, I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's not a simple, one size fits all kind of thing. But what we do is we encourage growth. And I tell people a lot of times when they start, I'm like, look, guys, in 10 years, you're probably not going to be here. But who are you going to be? What kind of new skills have you picked up? What kind of new certifications have you learned? What kind of new equipment, software, systems, processes, what have you picked up? Because the world, even 10 years from now, is going to be completely different. So you have to encourage this constant growth pattern. And the way to do that as a leader is you have to do it yourself. And as managers, we have to improve our skills. And there's lots of opportunities to do so. I believe that if you're a leader, you simply cannot be complacent with your skills. You must become someone better, newer, more efficient, and more streamlined, 12 months later than you were 12 months before. So that same kind of growth mindset is what is going to propel the organization forward. It's going to propel the millennials who are coming in forward, which, by the way, millennials don't like being called millennials, in case you're wondering.
They don't?
No, they do not like
What
that.
do they want to be called?
Just people.
Just people.
Just
They're okay with that. And, if you have that
They
kind
should
of...
be proud of being a millennial.
and like I was telling you guys before, we have interns who are really coming to us very excited. They want to get into this industry. It's a very hot industry, and there's a huge need for it. But there's just nowhere to really start. And some of our best people have been people who are outside of the skill set of what you would consider traditional cybersecurity, maybe puzzle masters or game masters, strategy people, because that's what it takes to survive and to become better, is to process that mind, to become better yourself.
And you're thinking out of the box based on who you're going to select for the job. Because I think a lot of people who are doing hiring, they have sort of a tunnel mentality about it has to be this kind of person rather than opening it up. And you're opening it up. You're not saying it has to have a person with background cybersecurity. You're looking at someone who's plays tunnel master, right?
And as the leader, you must anticipate what's going to come. So what kind of new technology is going to be out there? Because I'm telling you, particularly when I speak with banks, they're getting very nervous about what's going on the mainland and how it's starting to trickle here. When I talk to other industries, they're very interested in what are all these new apps that are starting to replace some of these jobs that we used to have. So I don't want to get too far into details, but you get the idea. It's not hard to find out what's coming down the pipe. And what's coming down the pipe is not the same old hat. You have to change. Whatever applications that we use are not the industry standards. We find better. If we can't find better, we write better. Like it must be better than everyone else, because that's the only way that you're going to progress.
I mean, what's interesting is that in a company of less than 10, the growth potential is obviously enormous because you have, nowhere to go but up, right? But in a company, what you're talking about, where you have certain roles that can't change. You always need somebody at the front desk. You always need somebody who is on the janitorial staff. You need somebody doing a variety of these other jobs. You can't necessarily grow salaries at the same rate. So what do? Do you have a lot of turnover right now?
We have turnover because a lot of them are part-timers, and these are their second jobs, But at the same time, we actually have part of the turnover is that they're transitioning to different departments and they're growing within the company. Our company itself, with USC Gym, we're expanding. I mean, we have 3 locations within the last 5 years. And so for us, it's you start at the front desk, and we have quite a bit of employees who have started at the front. They're in a gym, they've always loved working out, and it's, I think I want to help people. I want to do something different. They become personal trainers. They get into sales. And we have people who are in management level now that had started at the front desk. So we develop them to get them to the next level, rather than saying, okay, front desk is about as good as it gets, and you can go work at another company and be a better front desk. It's not that. For us, we want to develop them internally, and we want to build them up so they can make their way into operations manager, assistant, sales, personal training. And as much as we grow with every new location, I got to fill it with 150 employees, within all the different departments. So we have very well-rounded, cross-trained.
150 is a lot. You're going to be calling Judy with the next opening.
Just take a number.
Jeffrey, I know that First Insurance has done a lot to do a similar strategy. Obviously, a very different job, but you're talking about not necessarily having people who have the skill sets that you need. How are you growing from within? And if somebody wants to grow from within the company, how do they make themselves available or eligible to do that?
Well, because the skill set doesn't exist on the outside, you can't just hire that in, people fully ready to go on the job that we hire them for. You have to grow your own these days. And the people at our company know that we're much more committed to robust training at every level, no matter how senior or junior you are. It's continuous learning because things change all the time, not as rapidly in insurance as they do in IT, but they do in fact change. So we are taking the raw material. So college students, college grads, we have a relationship with the University of Hawaii, Shidler School of Business, and other colleges to bring in interns and then also college students and then ultimately hire them and train them for underwriting and claims and IT and accounting and actuarial. That's, I think, the future. I think trying to simply steal from your competitor is just not a sustainable strategy.
Well, they're going to steal right back.
Yeah, and they do.
And then the wages are going up and up. They're ridiculous.
Yeah, they do. First Insurance is the recruiting ground for every insurance company in Hawaii. I know that, and that's fine. But there are those who say to me, you know, we could train them and then they may leave. And I tell them, well, we could not train them and they might stay. And what's worse?
Right.
So we really need to train our folks and continue to throughout the course of their careers.
I know you didn't want to be called a millennial, but this is a question for the current generation, so how about we go with that? It said that the current generation, this is Lloyd calling in from YLI tonight, it said that the current generation are not thinking in terms of long-term lifetime employment. Is that true for Hawaii as on the mainland, and how does it impact an employer's commitment to training? So basically what he was talking about for young people.
Well, young people, well, when we say young people, let's talk about college graduates. So someone who's out of college is saddled with debt, which, I mean, I graduated college 10 years ago, and since then, the price of college has doubled. And so they're coming out with this huge debt, huge expectation, low offers for their time, effort, and energy. It's kind of depressing a little bit. So it's very difficult for them to really get excited about this job that you're offering them for kind of a so-so wage. So I understand from their perspective where they're coming in from. I mean, I guess what I would recommend, if you know, for our listener who really wants to enter the job market, is to continue to develop the skills that is going to make him attractive. And that's a perfect opportunity to do at a reception, right? Because if you don't do great at reception, then a computer kiosk will replace you. Right. If you don't do well at a particular task, maybe doing a professional service, that could be outsourced overseas, which a lot of it has been. And so unless you develop excellence within yourself as an individual, you will not become attractive and you will not move up. And sometimes that realization that maybe everything that they learned in school and this huge debt that they picked up only got them so far. Mm-hmm. Now they have to keep going and look for every opportunity to do this. I mean, I have an 8-year-old son, and he recently came home with some fundraising cards. And I said, great. He says, well, you know, we have to do this thing. I said, no. What you have to do is we're going to practice selling. Because later on, that is going to be a valuable skill for you. So we're going to sit there and we're going to have 100 people tell you no, they don't want to buy your fundraising cards. And guess what? One will say yes. How good is that going to feel? So it starts early. It never ends. Keep improving. And don't be afraid to fail, because you're going to fail a lot. We got really far where we are at because we tried everything that didn't work first, and finally we found something that really did.
We have a caller from Kaneohe. This is Bob, and your poor son, 99 rejections is pretty rough. But this really leads into this next piece of tape. The caller is visually impaired. This is Bob in Kaneohe, who says, what are the opportunities for handicapped employees? What accommodations are company prepared to make for handicapped folks? So let's look at this real quick. The headline of a recent report in the Los Angeles Times reads, tight job market is good for felons, people with disabilities, and others who are hard to employ. Along that line of thinking, we found a story about a program in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that just might work locally. Take a look.
Get our lunch and breakfast snack prepared today.
It's 7 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, and William Cole is packing a cooler full of lunches.
One of our first stops will be right here at I-40 and 4th Street. We got a guy right here we can get. Morning, sir. Morning.
Twice a week, Cole drives a van looping through Albuquerque's busy streets.
We're looking for panhandlers, homeless people, anyone who looks like they're interested and need help. How you guys doing?
Nearly everyone William approaches gets in the van. The aim is to get them off the streets and to a city job site where they'll pull weeds and pick up trash, including items left by fellow homeless.
What they're doing is refuse removal and getting rid of weeds, overgrowth, and just trying to beautify the city.
They work hard for 5 hours. Some come back week after week. The pay is $9 an hour, $1.50 more than the minimum wage.
Anybody want a yogurt?
Yeah.
Plus, they get lunch.
$20, $40, $45.
The cash they get means a lot to the workers.
Instead of going to the mission, at least you get to go to Burger King, McDonald's, and then you go back to the room and you sleep nice and comfortable instead of sleeping in the cardboard.
I got to put some money in my pocket. I helped clean up the community, and it's a good feeling.
Here, at least I got a good day's worth of work in. I don't feel bad because, I honestly worked and earned my wages.
The program is the brainchild of Albuquerque Mayor Richard Berry.
I was driving my car one day, and I was at a stoplight, and there was a gentleman holding a sign that says, "We'll work." So I came back to the office, and I told my staff, we're going to take these folks up on their offer. Instead of being punitive and giving somebody a ticket for standing on the corner and panhandling, why don't we give them a better opportunity?
A creative solution to a problem that we're battling right here in Hawaii. If there is this, very tight labor market, why is there that disconnect between the amount of people that we see that seem to not be able to get work and the amount of jobs that are out there? I wonder, Judy, if you can tackle that.
Well, I think it's kind of back to that skills mismatch. There's a lot of new jobs that exist that have been created in companies since the recession because companies reorganized and rethought the old paradigms because they had to be efficient and use money more wisely, and they had to bring in new talent to be really competitive, and so they've created new jobs. And the people who've lost their jobs don't have the same skill set as is needed in the new jobs. And also in Hawaii, we create a certain kind of workforce. So we have a lot of service industry people because of tourism, right? Then we have these unusual people that are so different and unique in the military, right? And those skills don't necessarily translate into an insurance company or a bank. So the two biggest industries, workforces in Hawaii, are those who don't necessarily contribute directly to the need for a business analyst or a project manager, right? So those are some of the new jobs that have been created, and those people in those two workforces don't necessarily bring those skills. So we have the openings, and they want jobs, but they don't match.
Right, interesting. So. I know you said that you recently had a military hire. Tell us about that.
Sure. So there are, well, first of all, someone who's transitioning, in their life from the military to the private sector, it's hard, obviously. Now, it's even harder when everyone that they approach for a job is asking them questions that they may not have the best answers to. Mostly because the training that is military is a little bit different than private sector. The skills are different. And so we took a risk and we brought someone on and he's working on really well. There's also on-the-job training programs that can help fund for a period of time, I believe 3 to 6 months of having a new employee, a new hire, get on-the-job training. And they subsidize part of that employee's paycheck so that you can bring them on and they can enter the workforce. So anyone who's on unemployment, they are in this program already, and employers can go there and seek from a pool of willing and eager applicants and do some on-the-job training, and you may find that that person works out really a lot better than you might have expected. We've also done that. So there are several programs that employers can do, and if they're willing to take a risk on someone who's maybe come out of the military, they can really get some good staff in there, as long as they're willing to learn and they have that wiring and they're willing to give it a go. It's really worth doing.
Jeffrey, what do you think about programs like that that kind of bridge the gap, whether it's somebody who hasn't worked for a while or somebody who comes from a different sector of our economy? Does First Insurance participate in things like that as well?
Yeah, I mean, the military, as far as I'm concerned, they're very disciplined. Okay, they have structure. They tend to like to learn, and they'll take training very, very well. So we like hiring the military, and we will when we have a chance to. But even the military, there's not a lot of them out there to hire either. I mean, what companies need to do and what we're doing is just committing ourselves to training. Because the days when you simply hire somebody that has all the skill sets that you want and you put them in their desk and say, go, that day's over. So you have to begin with the best raw material, whether it's out of college, out of the military, somebody transitioning from a different career and then back into the workforce, perhaps a parent who stayed home with the child for a few years and back in the workforce. We're more than happy to hire them and train them for a new skill set.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I personally and professionally am all for hiring the military, and I have so many military spouses on my team. But as a recruiter for other companies, when the other companies call me and I would suggest a military person, they often have these narrow minds about, no, they have to have experience in a bank or in a, you know what I mean? And so I think that that's one of the things employers have to do is open up their mind a bit, right? And that's what you were saying. There may be opportunities for felons or people who are disabled, but it's also an opportunity for someone who doesn't fit the mold you're expecting, right? So broaden your thinking.
You mold them into what you need for your company too, because every company is run different. So they may have been working for the last 20 years in this position and come with the background, but does it fit your company's culture and process?
And maybe it's not a perfect fit, but they would still work out, right?
Yeah, and so when you're at the job fair, for instance, what do you have a lot of people who come up to you and you're trying to figure out, okay, where can I fit you in?
Definitely, you know, for an example would be personal trainers. You know, some of them have just graduated from college. They just got their certification, maybe got their degree in kinesiology. And you want the green ones, you know, the ones fresh out, because you can train them, you can mold them. And once you have that certification, we'll introduce you to our company culture, our process, how we run our business, how you take that knowledge and turn that into a prospective client. You know, and how do you apply your knowledge into helping someone to transform themselves, whether it's losing 50 pounds or recovering from an injury, but turning it into a customer as well, you know, and not necessarily somebody who has been a trainer for the last 20 years, maybe running their own business and has their own habits and has their own everything, and they can also be a definite value to you. But what we, not always, but what we look for a lot of times will be more of the green ones that you can kind of help mold so that you can give them a little more value within themselves too, that they're learning something new and they're part of, you know, the bigger picture. And so for us, we'll take the green ones, we'll help mold you, and we'll show you how we do our business. And you kind of start from a clean slate, you know, with them.
I got an interesting question from Susan on Molokai. She's got a daughter who graduated from UH Manoa, had to move back home to Molokai. She's got good work experience, would love to come back to Oahu, but housing is so unaffordable. Maybe companies could attract or retain talent by helping younger workers with housing and or paying student loans. Judy, I wonder, what are some of the most creative things that you see companies doing to help out somebody like Susan's daughter who just graduated? You know, what Attila was saying is saddled with student loans and, you know, trying to prop them up so that they don't have to work, you know, 10 jobs to afford to work the one that they really want.
I think that's a bit of a problem. I'm not sure that there are a lot of companies that would feel that that's part of their gift to the employee, right? You know what I mean?
Well, not necessarily housing, but I wonder
your
what
housing.
kind of creative things you're seeing done.
Well, I don't see enough creative things being done, actually, and I think that there could be a lot more. And there's one thing, you can't be that flexible because you have to have equity within an organization. So you can't just suddenly pay this person more when there's 5 people doing the same job and they're making a tiny bit, you know, less or whatever. So you have to work with other opportunities for that person. And I think what we're all hearing tonight is the growth opportunity. You know, you may have to start at this, but we're going to make it possible for you to move up in the organization faster. Because it could be that typically it's been, oh, you have to be in this role at least 1 year before you can advance. But I think companies need to look at that and say, maybe you can advance in 6 months. Because they have an opening at that level too, right? There's so many openings everywhere. So why not let that person move up to a new job in 6 months rather than in 12 months? So they can see that they can get more money sooner and perhaps pay off those loans and afford to have an apartment or something like that. So I think there has to be more flexibility within companies and more adaptation.
I imagine you're not paying anyone's rent directly at this point, but what are some of the more creative ways that you're helping to compensate people to help callers like this woman's daughter?
Yeah, I mean, housing is a chronic problem. There just isn't enough housing on Oahu to meet the demand. There's just not. And there are all kinds of impasses and obstacles to building the amount of housing necessary to meet that demand. And you've got even affordable housing, so-called, in Kaka'ako, which is, you know, $500,000 or more,
Right.
which is not affordable, I'm sorry. So what we are doing now is looking very seriously at opening an office on the west side of the island, West Oahu. And what that does is allow people to work out there and find housing which is far less expensive out there than it is in, you know, the east part of this island. So that's one way, but that's a really big problem, housing. Sometimes we bring people from the mainland, they can't find housing at any price. I mean, like rental property, for example, at any price. So it isn't just a matter of affordable, it's any housing. So,
And when they find it, it's not comparable.
oh, well, it's never comparable, unless they're already living in Manhattan or San Francisco. That's the other thing, is the cultural shift. I mean, I'm from the Midwest originally, okay? I know what $200,000 buys in the Midwest. Well, that's your down payment here.
Right.
Okay, so it's a much bigger problem, housing is, and even rental is the same thing.
You know, working in technology, I'd imagine that there are a number of people on the mainland who see that you're running this company and think, oh, I'd love to come there. What do you tell people about what it is like to work and live in Hawaii?
Well, I tell people that I don't spend my days sitting on the beach, and we have real money here. We don't trade in coconuts. They laugh, but some really think that. You know, in many ways, you know, being a fully tech company, we do everything in the cloud securely. That makes us very nimble. It makes it so that we don't need a huge footprint in order to operate. It makes us very easy to change and to adapt and to pick up new things and tie them into what we are already doing in a kind of hub and spoke type of architecture. It allows us to expand our staff, not just here, but if we want to, we can go into mainland markets as well. Part of our goal is also to really reach out and see how we can help mainland companies and bring some more you know, business into Hawaii, so kind of expanding eastward rather than, you know, trying to you know, really be island centric. And that way we can really try to build more of a tech community here. The tech community here is one of those things that everyone has been talking about really bolstering and trying to support. And it's hard. You know, we have very limited resources here, both in talent and just in physical resources. So I feel that knowledge work in tech is probably the future of our state, and we should really try to embrace it and foster it.
You know, Darlene, the caller writing in tonight says, do any of the guests believe that age discrimination is an issue in Hawaii? I wonder, we've talked a lot about college students and recent graduates. Do you hire people who may be retired for a few years and then want to get back into the workforce?
I have a 55-year-old working at the front desk, you know, and I also have someone that we call grandma, you know, and she's in janitorial, you know. So definitely not, you know, discriminating, but we do have people who are either retired or getting close to that do work for us, and they're having a grand old time, you know. So it's really not limited, you know, on our end, and they get along great with our young generation, with our young generation too, very well qualified. You know, our 55-year-old gentleman at the front desk, he was a former vice president, you know, at a former company, and right now he's just kind of enjoying himself and kind of cutting back on the workload, and so wanting something a little more relaxed, and so he comes here and provides great customer service. Everyone enjoys working around him, and so definitely age is not a factor, and we all get along great. Like, you know, as just one big happy family that way.
Do you find that that it is tougher to place older workers?
No. If they've got the talent that the companies that call us are looking for, they don't, I never hear it mentioned, ever.
Right.
Well,
And sometimes a candidate will come to me and say, oh, you know, I'm a little concerned about my age. I'm like, don't even think that.
Right.
What do you have to offer? Just think like that. Don't even think about your age. It's irrelevant.
This is an interesting perspective. Mike from Pearl City says a lot of employers put up unnecessary barriers to getting employees who are willing and able to work. Those barriers are asking for a resume for entry-level jobs, credit checks, psychological testing, asking for recent experience in that field. Do you think that employers are making it too difficult for someone to get a job?
I think employers ask for all those things. More than likely today, everyone's asking for a drug test, criminal background check, credit check, professional references, maybe even verification of your education. So even though it's very hard to find talent, I don't think that employers are suddenly lowering the bar, right? I think they should expand their thinking in terms of other skill sets who could do the job, but not lower their bar in terms of certain things. Like they're not going to bring in somebody who has bad credit to work at a bank. And they're not going to bring in somebody with a criminal background record to work with children. They're not, you know what I mean? All those things have been happening for quite a while now, and they're getting much more prevalent.
Why is that important as an employer? I mean, it seems, it seems fairly basic, the parameters that you're talking about, but for people who might not agree with that, what would you say?
The legal environment is such that you need to do some sort of check on the people that you hire, particularly in highly regulated industries like insurance and banking. So the first thing, and I'm an insurance guy, so I know how people get sued and how you defend yourself. If you do not perform some measure of background check, whether it's criminal or credit check or some other check, you will be subject to more exposure and liability than if you hadn't or had done that. Also, with all the licensing happening with insurance at the agency level for claims for a variety of different functions. Licensed people, there are regulations that require the background checks to happen. Yep. So it isn't an option for a lot of carriers or a lot of companies not to do that.
And if you're a government contractor, there's requirements that you have to do. If you're also in healthcare, which is highly regulated, there's certain things that you have to do. So we have a lot of regulated industries here.
We do.
It just comes with the territory.
Yeah.
We're getting close to the end, but I want to make sure that we have this as part of the discussion, and that someone's writing in, what are the inhibitors to small businesses in Hawaii? And I wonder, does this low unemployment rate, as somebody who owns a small business, is this inhibiting the growth of your business?
Yeah, it can, of course. And it's not just my industry. We deal with hundreds of businesses and all our existing clients. And I hear the same thing over and over again. Everything from trying to find good chefs to finding good salespeople. It's a challenge, yes, absolutely. But I feel that as businesses, we can do something about that. And rather than focus on a problem that we cannot control, why don't we try to create really attractive, amazing work environments that people would want to work for, so that we don't have to go pilfer them for maybe a 25% raise or whatever is going on, that I don't know about. And let's try to create that kind of positive environment, because it's possible.
What is your best piece of advice for someone looking for a job? As somebody who has been working these job fairs, you said you worked one just a few weeks ago.
Just put yourself out there and open yourself up to opportunities. Never look at it as, if I went to school for marketing, I should probably find a job in marketing. You definitely want to keep your eyes open for other opportunities that you never know would, be a good fit for you as well. What you study in school and what you take outside in the work world and how you apply it, a lot of times it may be, maybe a little different. It's been a while since I've been in college, but having back then, 15 years ago, coming into the work world, I realized that, it wasn't necessarily what I thought. And a lot of people, what you see now, what they graduated in is probably not the field that they're working in career-wise 15 years later. So definitely keep your eyes and ears open from what you are looking for and what you may have gone to school for, to be open to other opportunities.
And Judy, it sounds like your advice would be the same to the employers who are looking to hire.
Absolutely, and one of my pet peeves is employers who are looking to hire, and as a recruiter we find them talent, and then the talent goes for an interview and the employer doesn't do a good job of impressing them on the interview, because they've had the old idea that they want this job and they need it, so they're just doing an interrogation, right? And they have to change and they have to market their own company. And that doesn't mean just HR. The hiring manager has to market the company. The hiring manager has to market him or herself, right? Because those candidates are screening you now, right? And it's not all about the money. It's about, I don't think I want to work for that guy, right? So I think companies need to train their managers to be better managers, which we talked about, and then people won't leave. and they have to train those managers to do a better job attracting the candidate. So I think a lot of companies need to train their internal managers.
And I want to give you the last word tonight as you get those hundreds of emails in the morning about getting a raise. Before they go see Judy, they should really go talk to their boss.
They should, and I want them to, rather than go see Judy all the way.
Absolutely. No, I agree too.
But no,
Yeah.
again, I mean, I think that most managers don't know, and most companies don't know all the information there is to know about the competition. So we want to know to keep those folks. And just to dovetail off what you said earlier, it has reversed now. I mean, now we're being interviewed by the candidate.
Absolutely.
So I tell our folks that, sell First Insurance, sell the company, because that's what you need.
Yep.
And my advice to young people would be find a company who is going to train you, not just when you begin, but throughout your career, because it never stops training.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank all of you for being here. And thank you for joining us tonight. Of course, we want to thank our guest, Judy Bishop of Bishop & Company, Jeffrey Shanka, President and CEO of First Insurance Company of Hawaii, Attila Saris, President of SOS Tech Solutions, and Darlene Kaku, Marketing Director for the UFC Gyms in Hawaii. Next week, right here on Insights, every year, 250,000 children enter foster care across the country. How many kids in Hawaii are in the care of foster parents? Would you qualify to raise and care for someone else's child? Have you ever wondered how it all works? And are Hawaii's foster parents getting the support they need? Join the Insights discussion right here next week. I'm Yanji Denise for PBS Insights Hawaii. Until next time, a hui hou.